All right, let's talk about guns and how we've got a hearing coming up at the Illinois State House up in Chicago, at a House hearing where they're going to be delving into the issue of a proposal, House Bill 5855, that would ban future sales of around 100 different semi-automatic rifles, shotguns, and pistols. It would also prohibit the possession of magazines that hold more than 10 rounds. It would limit only those who are 21 and older from getting a required firearm owner identification card unless the person under 21 is enlisted in the armed services, or if they're out hunting with an adult that has a FOID card. So those are just some of the provisions. You also have an expansion of the gun red flag laws that are already on the books for 6 months, but they want to expand that to a full year. So this all, of course, coming together from State Representative Bob Morgan. He has a bill that would do this, and he wants to get it across the finish line before January 10th. So we're looking here now. It's December 15th, in less than a month. Bob Morgan hopes to get this bill across the finish line. Monday, they had a hearing where they only focused on victims of gun violence and also advocates advocating for this particular bill. But then you have as well the issue of, the statistics that we're going to hear about today. Are we going to hear the opposition? We'll hear from some of those voices coming up, but of course, your phone calls at 217-629-7970. Live and local. Good morning. You're on WMAY. It is Springfield's Morning News. I'm Greg Bishop. What's up?
Good morning, Bishop.
Hey.
Two things. One, don't we have the strictest gun laws in the United States? Or like second or third?
Among the most strict gun laws, we have the firearm owner identification card. We already prohibit the sale of certain types of guns to people under 21. But this bill would expand the state's gun restrictions quite a bit, actually.
And I'm supposing they're doing this because of the mass shootings in the schools.
That's an impetus that a lot of people are talking about, but it's not just the schools, it's the mass shootings in general. You had the Highland Park shooting on July 4th of this year.
Because we have mass shootings in Chicago every weekend. I mean, literally, I think, if I'm not mistaken, a mass shooting is where three or four more people are shot.
Right.
It's considered a mass shooting. I may be wrong. It may be 5.
No, I think it's 4 or more. I think, I'm not sure, but either way, a loss of life is a loss of life. And then you got in Chicago. It's not just the people who lose their lives; it's also the people who are shot and survive, and that happens with regularity. Yeah.
But we have this tight. We're going to even strengthen them down even more. So it just blows my mind that people can't get the concept of this.
Well, we'll hear more of the proponents and their assessment of what needs to happen with Illinois' gun laws. But the opponents, Dan Eldridge from Federal Firearms Licensees of Illinois, he's going to join us later on in the show after 8:30 this morning. So stay tuned for that. But you also have a round of various state lawmakers from the downstate area who are pushing back, including you've got State Senator Darren Bailey, the former GOP nominee for the November general election for governor, and he said legislation like this, it's just the beginning, warning that there's going to be a whole bunch more coming down the pike.
And friends, this isn't going to stop with just this. This is going to continue. It's going to go way past firearms. It's going to continue until they hamper and limit the freedoms that we have here.
So he also discussed how this is just one of many things that Illinois contends with when it comes to Illinois gun ownership.
Magazines, to ban the sale, the manufacture, the trade, anything. There are some situations where if you own a particular type of firearm, you will not be able to give it to your children as an inheritance.
So there's that issue as well. State Representative Charlie Meyer, he talked about how this is something that's going to impact younger people, people under the age of 21, especially if they are wanting to go and, say, get a scholarship at a college. Believe it or not, some of you might think this is wild, but it's the truth. There are scholarships for sharpshooters who can get a pretty decent scholarship.
I have kids down here who've gotten full scholarships, $25,000 a year scholarships. My local bank loaned the one kid $7,500 to buy his gun so he could go to shooting competitions and get a scholarship.
But that would change under this. Meanwhile, over in the U.S. Senate, Senator Dick Durbin from Illinois, he talked about, the Sandy Hook shooting. Yesterday was the 10-year mark of that happening. He highlighted the tragedy there. He highlighted the tragedy with other mass shootings and saying that Congress did move some gun control through, but he says more needs to be done. And in particular, he brought up like a board or something, right? He brought up this reader board during his statements in the U.S. Senate to highlight what he says is a major problem with gun manufacturers.
This is an ad for a JR-15, a junior model of the AR-15. 20% smaller and lighter. It's designed for children under the age of 18. Look at the logos in this ad. I hope you can see them. They're also on the weapon. This gun manufacturer uses cartoon skulls sucking on pacifiers to try to hook children on using military-style assault weapons. If I made that statement without this ad, you'd say Durbin's making up a lie. That can't be true. They really want to sell these guns to little kids, and they have them festooned with these images that children will find interesting. On July 4th this year, a 21-year-old with a Smith & Wesson AR-15 military-style rifle went up on a rooftop during a 4th of July parade in Highland Park, Illinois. Now, Highland Park, Illinois is one of these idyllic suburbs, beautiful little place, wonderful families, a great community. And the 4th of July parade is like a rite of passage. You take your kids out to see the flags, hear the bands, and enjoy every single moment of it. This 4th of July that we just witnessed was different.
And he talked about the tragedy and the need for more gun regulation. He wants to ban semi-automatic weapons, and that's something that here in the state of Illinois is very possible to happen with State Representative Bob Morgan's bill that is going to be heard in a committee today. But the possibility of gun prohibitions, that's merely going to increase sales, and that's according to U.S. Law Shield. We talked with Kirk Evans and shared that conversation in detail with you yesterday. But Kirk, he talks about the prospect of future weapons bans and how that does lead to people wanting to buy more weapons. And in Illinois, we actually do have the highest number of firearm background checks of any state. And we're looking at right around 4 million background checks for firearms in the state of Illinois. And that's about 300,000+ more than second place Kentucky. We haven't even gotten December's numbers yet. But the numbers are leveling off. If you look at the historic data from the FBI, it does show, traditionally in 2018, 2019, there may have been like 2.5, 3 million firearm background checks. That doesn't necessarily mean sales. But the number of background checks happening for firearms in Illinois, it really, I think, is driven by the fact that we have the firearm owner identification card. But regardless, Illinois, year after year after year, has led the country. During 2020, a lot of uncertainty around a variety of things led to more people buying guns. As Evans said, this is obviously something that's driven by uncertainty leading to more gun sales.
It's usually during overall periods of uncertainty. So during COVID, the George Floyd riots.
And also, he says that that uncertainty, it's going to be even more so, especially with the implementation of cash bail coming up January 1st.
You would certainly expect if there are a number of people who see what they perceive to be folks, quote, getting out of jail after having committed a crime, that there would be a rise in that uncertainty and an increase in gun ownership.
And that increase in gun ownership expected, even with the continued uncertainty that there is with the possible litigation against any proposed gun ban in Illinois.
No matter what comes into play, there's going to be a mishmash of legal decisions. And so, just please pay attention and make sure you stay abreast of the laws.
And we'll keep you abreast of what's happening. Of course, we've got another hearing on House Bill 5855 today, and another hearing, I believe, on the 20th next week. So we'll bring you the highlights of all of that here with Springfield's Morning News. I'm Greg Bishop on 92.7 WMAY, Springfield's News and Talk. You can always chime in live and local at 217-629-7970. Again, 217-629-7970. It is Springfield's Morning News on 92.7 WMAY, Springfield's News.